Thank you very much for being with us this evening to talk through the Maths and English GCSE information. My name's Ryan Green. I'm the Curriculum Area Manager of Maths and English, and I'll be starting us off by talking about the GCSEs this summer in general and some of the pieces of information that are worth knowing. Later on, we'll be speaking to Melissa Rispin, who's the Programme Leader of English, and she's going to run us through preparing for English language. Then we'll pass on to Victoria Tomlinson, who's going to talk to us about preparing our learners for maths, and she's the Programme Leader of Maths. We'll then be passing over to Sam Parry, who's an advanced practitioner of digital development, and he's going to be talking to us about how you can utilise Sentry and how your learners can utilise Sentry to prepare themselves in the best possible way. And then finally, we'll be doing a question and answer session with the Maths and English panel. So if you have any questions as we're going along, feel free to use the Q&A button on the call, and we'll try and get through as many of those as we can. So first of all, what I want to do is give you as much information that we have available to help your learners prepare. So first of all, the exams are expected to go ahead as planned, but if that changes because of a significant development in the pandemic, then of course we'll let you know about any contingency arrangements. To enable learners to demonstrate what they know, understand and can do, there has been some changes this year compared to previous years to help your learners, essentially. Importantly though, none of these changes have been made to the content that the students need to learn, and that is to ensure that as far as possible, students can progress to their normal next stage in their learning. So the main adaptations to the qualifications this year are as follows. So we have advanced information for both maths and English, which will allow us to focus the revision of our students and of your learners. And Melissa and Vicky will go into that in a little bit more detail later. In maths, we also have a formula sheet that the learners can use in the exams. So it's really good for the learners to get familiar with that resource, as that can help them on the exam day. How the learners will be assessed. So this year, there's a special exam timetable with exams for any one subject being more spread out than in previous pre-pandemic years. So for English, the paper 1 is on Wednesday, the 18th of May, and that's in the morning at 9 AM. The exam time starts at 9 AM, so we advise that the learners get to their zone at 8:30. The English paper 2 is on Friday, the 10th of June, again, starting at 9 AM, but expecting the learners at their room at 8:30. For maths, paper 1 is on Friday the 20th of May, again a 9 AM start. Maths paper 2, which is the first calculator exam, is on Tuesday the 7th of June, 9 AM start. And the final maths paper 3, which is again a calculator exam, will be on Monday the 13th of June with a 9 AM start. In terms of how the learners will be assessed, they'll get assessed and their results will be available on Thursday, the 25th of August. The structure and the format of the exam papers will be the same as it was in 2019, and the process for appealing exam results will be the same as it was in 2019 and before. In terms of how the GCSE grades will be awarded in summer, students will be awarded grades using the established method of comparable outcomes. However, to reflect the fact that we're in a pandemic recovery period, exams will be graded by the board more generously this year compared to normal exam years to provide learners with a safety net. What I'm going to do now is pass over to Melissa Rispin, and she's going to run you through English specific preparation that you can do with your learners.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for coming in, everybody. So I'm Melissa. Just to take you through a couple of things. So English language, so we are with the exam board AQA, and it's English language. Please don't confuse it with literature. Some of our students do. It's a completely different exam. So it's broken down into 2 papers, paper 1, paper 2, only 5 questions on each paper. In regard to success and successful revision, I think it's really key, if you want to take a screenshot of that or save it for your information, your children or people that you're looking after need to know the skills necessary for each question. So my revision point from an English specialist point of view would be first understanding the questions that are going to be thrown at you. Interestingly, that question 5 on the end, the last question, is worth 50% of the paper. So one question in English is worth half the marks of that paper. So really important that we target revision in that area. Thank you. So preparation. So to help students focus their exam preparation, AQA have released advanced information. So on paper 2, we know that the exam will cover 21st century autobiographical writing and a 19th century essay. So you will have to do a comparison, or your children will have to do a comparison of the different styles of writing. Really helpful is that they tell us section B, so the 50%, the one question that's worth 50% is going to be writing an article. Now, we don't know what the topic of the article is going to be, but if you could help your children to revise and be aware of what an article looks like, you know, just showing them a newspaper, a magazine, Googling online, you know, an article has a title, it's set out in paragraphs. Those simple things will help achieve a good score. So obviously, now we know this, we're tailor making our lessons. They're going to be bespoke and they're going to target everything that we've been given. Unfortunately, we don't have any advanced information for paper 1. So paper 1 is the creative writing paper, but paper 2, we do know what types of reading material they're going to be asked to read, and the fact that they're going to be asked to do an article. So if you're making a note, please make the note that they will have to write an article. Thank you. Okay, so loads and loads of revision out there. So if you want to have a broader view of AQA and the specifications, simply do a search. So make sure it's AQA, GCSE, English language, and the board will give you access to all sorts of assessment material, past papers. You know, there's an abundance of resources on there. We also give out past papers and anything we can from AQA in class as well. Now, I'm not on commission for Mr. Buff. Mr. Bruff, I don't know him, but he is very good. So he's on YouTube. And again, just a simple search for Mr. Bruff. Again, AQA, English language. He's really good because he makes short videos, only a few minutes long, and he also makes songs, helping you to revise what you need to know for each question. So maybe if, you know, children don't like reading so much, maybe watching a video and taking that information in that way visually would be helpful for revision. And I've also written a short booklet, a revision booklet, that I've handed out to all my students. We send it electronically, and again, you know, we are going to send that to you if you'd like to use that. I think it's all about targeting those 5 questions. If they know what the 5 questions are going to be, the 5 questions never change, they will be on solid ground. Okay, thank you. Okay, so just to reiterate what Ryan said, so our first actual GCSE paper is the 18th of May, so that's the creative writing one. The second is the 10th of June, so 2 weeks in between, which is nice respite, and we can target that paper 2 revision. Also Easter half term, so you know, hopefully time for relaxation, but also with only a few weeks, teaching weeks till the exam, a really good chance to do some revision for us. So we're offering GCSE English revision on those days and times. So if you'd like to take a screenshot, make a note of that. The first 2, so Monday the 4th of April, 10 till 12, 1 till 3, is in the PLC building, so that's actually on college campus in L15. Tuesday the 5th of April, same times again, same room, and we'll be doing paper 1 and paper 2 over these 2 days. I'll be doing the online, so we've got Tuesday 12th of April, 10 till 12 and then 1 till 3. That's on Teams. So by tomorrow lunchtime, all our students will have been set up onto a team just for Easter revision. If there is any problem and you know your son, daughter can't get onto that, please let us know and we'll just check what the problem might be. There's also one on Thursday, the 14th of April at the same time. So I think that just leaves me to hand over to the lovely Vicky from Maths. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Melissa. Okay, so I'm Vicky Tomlinson. I'm the programme leader for Maths. So I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about what we've got going on in Maths and how the students can get prepared for the upcoming exams. So with regards to lesson delivery, as Ryan said, we've got advanced information in both English and Maths. So the advanced information in Maths is really been useful because it outlines very clearly exact topics which are coming up on exactly which papers. So we know we have a very clear list of what topics are coming up and when. So all our lessons over the last few weeks and going forward and in the period between the exams are focused on that advanced information. So every single lesson that we deliver, every single topic, every single worksheet that we do, it all includes topics that are coming up on the exam. So it's really important that the learners all attend their lessons and that they're all really focused in the lessons because they're getting so much information about exactly what's coming up on the exams. So not only that, but we also know exactly which papers they're coming up on. So for example, in a lesson we might teach or go through a topic like bid maths, for example. And that comes up in paper 1 and paper 2. So we know then that we need to teach calc skills and non-calc skills. Whereas another topic we might know comes up on paper 1, which is a non-calc paper. And so we would only teach or help them to understand the non-calc method. So it's really important that they're in the lessons and that they are using that advanced information for their revision. Also, we've been telling the students to just make notes in the lessons of any topics which they're struggling with, because that's really going to help for their revision. Obviously, there's a lot to cover, and if they just focus on the stuff that they're struggling with, then obviously that will sort of tailor their revision. So also, we've got a lot of revision. They don't just need to revise at home, we've got a lot of revision going on in college. So coming up over the Easter holidays, we've got quite a lot of revision workshops. So in the first week, which is next week, we've got an online revision session on Tuesday, which is a morning session. So that's 10 AM till 12, and that's online via Teams. And then we've got on Wednesday, we've got an all day drop-in session. So that's from 9 till 3, and the students can just come at any time that they like. You know, even if they just come for half an hour or they want to come for the whole day, whatever suits them, and they can work through papers or they can work through resources, whichever, that's just exactly what they need. And then on Thursday, we've got another online session. This time it's in the afternoon, so it's 1 till 3. And then that repeats in the second week. So the same again, we've got Tuesday and Thursday online, Tuesday morning, Thursdays in the afternoon, and then we've got Wednesday all day 9 till 3 drop-in workshop on site. So we've also got revision after the holidays, so in the summer term, going right through to the exam period, and in between the exam period, we'll have revision workshops. So they're Tuesday and Thursday, 4:30 till 5, so just a little bit of time while the students are waiting for the buses, rather than waiting out in the cold or hanging around the corridors. They need to come on in to the revision workshop, and even if they only do 15 minutes, it's better than nothing. And then we've also got an online revision session, which is 6 till 7. So hopefully if they've managed to get home in time, then they can attend that online via Teams. So all these online sessions are accessed through the GCSE Maths summer exam team. So we've created a big team with all of the GCSE Maths learners have been added to it, and any exam information or revision sessions or revision resources or anything like that will be uploaded onto that team. So they really need to keep an eye out for any important information, and also they'll be able to access the online revision sessions via that team. And then finally, before each exam, we have a wake up workshop. So quite early, 8 till 9, before the exams start, we've got in a classroom, we have a little bit of breakfast for them, some bananas maybe, or croissants or something so that they can come, have a little bit of breakfast and do a little bit of maths and get themselves in the maths zone before the paper starts. And also it gives them the opportunity, if they are feeling a bit anxious, they can speak to the teacher, they can find out the room, all that sort of information as well. So that's really good if they can attend that. That will definitely benefit them. I think that's all from me. So I'm going to pass you now over to Sam Parry, who's our advanced practitioner for digital development.
Hello everyone, my name is Sam Parry, as Vicky's just mentioned. I am the digital development lead for Maths and English, but today I'm going to focus specifically on using Sentry and how students can best use this tool in preparation for their summer exams. Now, some of you may never have heard of Sentry before, and that's absolutely fine. I'm going to kind of give you a nutshell definition of it, and then I'm going to show you what it is. So what is Sentry? It's an online learning platform that covers both maths and English. It has all the GCSE curriculum content that they need in one place. So that's why we're a massive fan of it and why we've subscribed to it at Reaseheath, because essentially they don't have to go here, there and everywhere to try and find the perfect video, the perfect set of questions, and to get all that information. They just go to one place and everything is there. So yeah, that's essentially what Sentry is. That's why we like it so much. But what I'm going to do, I think the best way to tell you about Sentry is to show you. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen now with you, and hopefully everything goes smoothly and I'll be able to show you in a nice effective way how students can log on to Sentry and best utilize it. So hopefully now you can all see my screen. Now, students, when they are in college, there's a nice little shortcut to Sentry through the Reaseheath dashboard. However, at home, I imagine it's a little bit more difficult because they don't have that dashboard there. So what do you need to do? Go onto Google and type in Sentry like so. I've kind of embarrassed myself with the spelling, but there it is at the top, Sentry. So click on Sentry, and then because it's such a good resource, quite popular, it's at the very top. Now you can click on that, but that takes you to like the home page. The quickest, most effective way to log in is to click on this link here that says Sentry Login. Okay, so once you click on that, it will take you to the login page. Now I'm the guy responsible for getting all students onto Sentry, so they should, I would say 99.999% of students have got access to Sentry. And how do they log in? Well, it is their full student email address. And I have asked for permission from the student if I could use theirs. So you can see that it's their initials followed by their student number at reaseheath.ac.uk. And then the password, which is quite creative, is simply password 1. Okay, so it's quite generic, should be memorable, and that should get them into Sentry. So what I'm going to do, I'll zoom back out. And I'm going to log in now as one of my students. So this is the student perspective. Okay, here's Lucy's Sentry. So this is Sentry in all of its glory. Now I'm going to show you 3 particular ways in which students can utilize Sentry to prepare. Okay, so straight away I mentioned it's got English and maths on there. So you can see straight away, yeah, English language, not literature. English language is there, and we've got some mathematic nuggets there as well. Now I've just used the word nugget. Now a nugget is essentially like a micro lesson, okay? But before I show you a nugget in kind of particular detail, I'll just explain what this recommended pathway is. So at the start of the academic year, we encouraged all students to log on to Sentry and complete diagnostics. Now, diagnostics are an array of different topics, different questions that allow Sentry to calculate and work out where students need to focus their attention on. So I'm a maths teacher, so I'm going to naturally kind of sway towards maths here, but they could be asked several questions on different areas and they show weaknesses in terms of ratio or I'm stumbling here, geometry or some, certain things like that. Sentry will take that information and then it will provide them with nuggets based on those topics, because at the end of the day, we don't want our students, really driving home things they can do. We want them to work on things they're struggling with to get better and to show that development. Okay, so this is the recommended pathway. Now, sometimes students log in and they are bombarded with potentially just English or just maths. Now, if that's the case and you're looking at just doing English for a session or for an hour, use the top right function there, turn off the maths ones, and then you'll get nothing but English nuggets like so. So you could look at implicit and explicit, narrative structure, circular structure, etc., etc. And then same again for, oops, turn that off. Same again for math. So let's say you're wanting to do a solid hour's worth of math revision. Ignore the English nuggets, focus on the maths. Now, let me show you what a math nugget is. So these are all the different ones here. And what I like about this is the fact that there's a lot of variety. So a student may not be feeling algebra, for example, or calculating best value for money, but they may be feeling doing a bit of cubes or ratio, and then that's what the pathway is quite nice for, is that they have that choice, and choice is always a nice thing. So let's start with cubes. Okay, so this is the nugget, this is the micro lesson. So you can see here there's a nice little introductory video. Now I really like videos. I think videos are very visual, they're very hands-on, they're quite engaging. Now obviously I'm trying to promote this as much as I can, but I'm not trying to be biased when I say this. I often watch some YouTube videos where the narrator is very robotic, quite dull. Now Sentry isn't like that. There's quite a nice human touch to Sentry, which is encouraging. But you can see it's a 6-minute video, and watching through it, you can make notes, you can understand the topic a little bit better, and you can always go back. Okay, so it's quite nice. And then once you've watched the video and you're quite happy with the content, you can tackle the questions. Now, I was going to work through this, but I will do one question just to show that I am quite competent. 3 cubed, 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. Submit my answer, and it tells me there I've got it correct. Now, that's why Sentry is quite good as well, is the fact it gives you immediate feedback. So you don't have to wait till the end, or you don't have to wait to get your teacher to mark something for you to see if you've had success. You have that immediate feedback. You know if you're getting something. But more importantly, you know if you're not getting something, so you can work on it that little bit more. If you hit a bit of a stumbling block, you can always go back to the video at the stop, or you can look at some of the revision cards to help you understand a little bit more. Okay. At the end of the nugget, it will give you a summary to tell you how well you've done. It'll give you an option to either do it again or move on to something slightly more advanced or a different topic entirely. Okay. But I'm not going to do too much more because this is Lucy's pathway, and I do not want to influence her answers or her resources, essentially. So yeah, that is the recommended pathway. That's what Sentry believes is worthwhile for the student to be looking through. Now, what you'll notice, which is quite nice actually, is the fact it's very bespoke. So what Lucy will have will be different to, say, George or to Vicky or to Melissa, for example. So it's quite tailored to the learner, which is quite nice. Now, I'm going to show you 2 more ways in which students can navigate through Sentry to get some good quality revision in. The second way is by looking at the assignments tab. So on the left-hand side, you can see there where it says My Assignments. Now, throughout the academic year, we set students assignments either prior to a lesson or after a lesson to either introduce a topic or to allow them to practice or kind of reinforce some learning. Now, you can see here, these are some of the assignments that we've set from January and February and so on and so forth. Now, I would advise, this is me being teacher mode, I'd advise you to focus primarily on the ones that have been set most recently, because they're the ones we know are coming up in the exam. So for example, mass density volume, Pythagoras' theorem. Now, what I'm going to do and try and encourage my team to do is be very specific when they label an assignment as to where it's going to appear. Because we know, for example, paper 2 is a calculator paper, so we know, or hopefully the student can then think, oh, I can use a calculator here, brilliant. Okay, so that's what we're going to try and do going forward. But they're the assignments. So they're teacher selected nuggets that we think will have value and add impact onto the revision of the student. Okay, now the nice thing about doing the assignments is that the teacher can then check on that, they can give feedback, and then they can work with that student further. The final thing that I will mention is a student who may have been sat in a lesson and they've tried to work through something and thought, I'm not quite getting it. I need to do a little bit more. Now, this is where Sentry can come in, because it can give them that opportunity to do that a little bit more, to reinforce some learning and to kind of get them across the line. So by clicking on the My Courses tab on the left-hand side, you will see that there's a selection of maths and English courses. Now, for maths, we want you to focus on, oh, I've got Vicky down there, sorry, Vicky. We want you to focus on this year 2022 Maths GCSE AQA. This is the Advanced Information course. This has got nothing but relevant nuggets that are relevant to that course in the summer exam. So we did have students on this initially, on the FE Mathematics GCSE one, but now the year 2022 one is the best. Okay, and then for English, FE Language GCSE AQA. AQA is the example that we're with. FE, because we are further education. So they're the 2 that I would, encourage students to search upon. Now, obviously, I have mentioned I'm a maths teacher, so naturally I'm swaying towards this one down here at the bottom. But by clicking on that, the student can then search for a nugget that they could do with a little bit more work on. Okay, so let me think. Let's say I've just taught Pythagoras, okay, or I've just been in a Pythagoras lesson. I've not quite understood it fully. What can I do? Well, I can go onto this search function here, type in the start of the word, and you can see they're the Pythagoras nuggets that I could work towards. All sorts there. Now, this is what I'm going to encourage all learners to do. And if you're a parent or a guardian, whatever you may be, and you're thinking, I want them to focus on, please encourage your son, daughter, child, whoever it may be, to contact their teacher. If they're thinking, oh, which Pythagoras question do I do? Which nugget? Get them to contact the teacher. The teacher can spend 2 or 3 minutes just searching for the right one, and then they can guide them in the right direction. What we don't want to do is have, you know, all of our learners spending lots of time and effort on the wrong path. Okay, so yeah, please encourage them to contact the teachers. You know, we're a friendly bunch, we're quite approachable, and with the power of teams, they can do it pretty sharpish. Okay, I'm the Century lead as well, so if you want to bypass the teacher and come straight to me, I'm more than happy to help. Because if any student is getting on Century, then I'm going to do my damn best to make sure that they've got everything sorted for them. Okay, but yeah, hopefully that I've kind of showcased Century, what it is, how it can be accessed, how it can be used. I'll just quickly do a recap because I think that's always a good thing to do. So going to the recommended pathway, that allows them to work on things that Century have suggested. By going on to their assignments, that allows the student to work through things that the teacher has recommended and suggested. And then finally, by going on to my courses, they can search for nuggets that they think they could do with a bit more practice on. So it's a very, you know, inclusive, accessible tool that has everything in one place. And hopefully we can see students getting a lot more engagement on there through now till the end of the exam season. But thank you for listening. I really appreciate the time and energy, or time you put into listening to me there. I'm going to pass you back on to Ryan now, who will then move us on into the question and answer section. Okay, thank you. Ryan, I think you may be muted, my friend.
Thanks very much. Apologies for that, guys. So we've tried to answer all the questions that have got into the Q&A. We've published 2 of those questions. So Mark has asked if we can forward the dates and times for the maths revision, please. This session should be recorded, so at the end of it you'll get a recording and you can have a little skip back if you want to have a look at the maths or the English. But Chris, who's our moderator and our producer for today, he's replied, so if you want to have a look into the Q&A box, then there's a response for you there. Mark also had another great question, which is what are comparable outcomes? So I'm going to try and answer that as best I possibly can, Mark, and if anyone wants to join and add to that, then feel free. So essentially what comparable outcomes are is it's ensuring that exam year on exam year, you have the same proportion of students achieving each grade. So for example, if the student in the middle of the ability range is typically a grade 4 student, if in previous years your average student scored around 42 marks, then the grade boundary for a grade 4 would be around 42 marks. This year, because obviously of the disruption of the pandemic, then we'd probably expect that the average student would score slightly less than in previous years, so maybe high 30s instead of mid 40s, and that then through comparable outcomes should be reflected in the grade boundaries. So we'd expect to see the grade boundaries drop us a little bit. And in fact, the exam boards have said they're going to be more generous than usual. So those boundaries of the average student that may be getting 38 marks to get a grade 4, they'll move that boundary accordingly, but then also maybe give a little bit of leeway for each grade as well. So I hope that makes sense, Mark. I don't know if anyone else wants to clarify any of that, or if you're happy with that answer.
I think that was quite clear, actually. I think you've done that one quite well, Ryan.
Okay, that's good. Okay. I think there's a couple of other questions that have come in as well. So are past papers available or useful? So that's, I suppose, a general question for maths and for English, so I can help with that one. So they're absolutely available. We've got members of support staff in both the maths department and the English department who have a bank of past papers. So if your learner wants to come to us and grab some papers, then that's absolutely fine. What is also worth noting is that they are really useful, especially due to the fact that the last couple of years have been teacher assessed grades and calculated grades. It's really good for learners to get in the habit of sitting an exam and taking a bit of time aside to practice their exam technique. And like Melissa said, especially in the English paper, a lot of the marks come at the back of the paper. So the more repetition that the learners get and find strategies to attack that paper, the better. So they're definitely useful. Yeah, good question.
I would say it's imperative for English, Ryan, because of the small numbers of questions. So with my learners, I suggest it's obviously their choice, but I always suggest that they start on question 5. You know, where they've got lots of energy, lots of ideas. Do that one first, you know, and then work your way through the paper backwards. You only need to do 2 questions. You'll have completed 75% of the marks available. And then, as I say, when they're flagging, the questions get easier. So it's about knowing what's best for your son or daughter. And, you know, maybe chat to your teacher, because we do get a good sense of, you know, where their skills are. But I think definitely get them to understand in English. The questions never ever change. It's just the text that changes.
Thank you, Melissa. Laura's asked a good question, which is, can Year 10 students access the revision sessions? Absolutely. So we'll make sure that they're added onto the team so that they can join the revision sessions that are online. They're also more than welcome to come in on site over Easter, and they're more than welcome to also join the revision sessions that are going on throughout the week. I know that the Year 10 students have a slightly reduced timetable to our FE learners, so that obviously they might not be able to access them if they're not in on that day. But by all means, if you want to bring your learner in specifically for that revision session on that day, then that's not a problem at all, Laura. We've got another question here about the maths students and will they get a formula sheet and be able to see it before the exams. So I'll pass you on to Vicky for that one, if that's okay.
That's fine. Yeah, so with regards to the formula sheet, we did use the formula sheet in the mock, although that was the first time that the learners had seen it. So whether many of them may at that point not have used it, but we are starting to distribute the formula sheets, and in some classes they've been added into the books and into the folders. I think some teachers have recommended that they take a screenshot of it so that they can constantly refer back to it. So yes, we will definitely be hoping by straight after Easter, all learners have had access to the formula sheet. We can also upload that onto the GCSE team so that that's available for anybody to see. And the more that they do actually familiarise themselves with it and familiarise themselves with the formulas that are on there, then obviously when they come across a question in the exam, they'll know to look on the formula sheet for that extra little bit of help. So so hopefully that answers your question.
We've got another good question, which is how will we be able to ensure that learners arrive on time with the buses? So luckily the transport team at Reaseheath are great. In the past, there has been occasions where traffic's been really bad on exam day, and some of the buses have been delayed. What happens in that instance is that the transport team will communicate with the exams team, and across the site, the start of that exam will be delayed. So there's a contingency plan in place for if buses are late, so that's nothing to worry about at all.
Can I just add something?
Yeah, absolutely.
So obviously, if you're coming here with private transport, we've had incidences in the past where there's been an accident or something, and I know it obviously causes a lot of stress to students thinking they're going to be late. So long as you have a way of communicating with somebody in college, so maybe, you know, if you're in that terrible situation, just get your child to communicate what's happening on Teams or give us a call. And we can meet them on site. So the main thing is we can get them into an exam, so long as they don't arrive over half an hour too late, and we can walk them into the area, so long as they're not mixing with other people or looking on social media. You know, we will do our best to facilitate getting people into exams, but just keep us updated on what's going to happen.
Perfect, thank you, Melissa. We've had another question here. So if your student doesn't quite, I'm assuming, achieve a grade 4, are they eligible to return for the second year of their course? So that's a question to speak to the curriculum areas about, because each curriculum area has different entry requirements for their courses. I'm assuming if it's the second year of the course they're currently on, then it wouldn't be a problem, but definitely best check in with the curriculum area on the entry requirements for the course that your learners are looking to go on in the next academic year. And I think that's all of the questions answered. If you've got any others, feel free to put them in the chat now. We'll have a quick look. But if there's not any more, then thank you very much for coming. Hopefully you found that useful. And feel free to contact us if you have any other questions after the event's finished. Feel free to give us a call. And again, we'd just like to thank you for your support, really, at this crucial time. And hopefully with your support and with our support, we can ensure that the learners achieve their targets this year and come out with a really good outcome and have a really successful year. Just as I was about to finish, I did see another question in the chat, actually, so I'll just quickly answer that one before we end the call. So Mark's asked, are the exams going large amounts of students? So there is a lot of students that will be sitting those exams. So we have roughly 500 GCSE English learners at Reaseheath and about 600 GCSE maths learners. So they are big events across college, and they are college closures. So if your learner only studies maths, then they won't be required on site on the English exam days, and vice versa. All of the learners are spread out across college. So there's two main exam rooms, which is the new sports hall and the Lord Woolley Centre, that house about 100. And then there's also some smaller rooms as well to accommodate people's access arrangements. So yeah, there is a lot, and it's a big event, but we try and spread the learners out as best we can as well. Thanks very much. I'll leave that one there, but feel free to obviously contact us if you need it. We appreciate your support, and feel free to watch the recording back if you want to have a look back at some other information. Thanks very much. Goodbye.